Welcome to another edition of Be the Change Georgia, where we amplify the voices of the inspiring business leaders surrounding the B Corp and social impact movements across the Southeast to help you learn how to build your legacy at the intersection of people, planet, purpose, and profit. Today, there are more than 8,000 B Corps in over 80 countries and 180 different industries, unified by one common goal: transforming the global economy to benefit all people, communities, and the planet. If you want to learn how to plug into our purpose-driven business community alongside the inspiring leaders we feature on this show, check us out at belocalgeorgia.com or on Instagram or Facebook at belocalgeorgia, and we'll hope to meet you at our next event.
Today, Nathan Stuck sits down with former professional athlete, entrepreneur, and public speaker, Rennie Curran. Rennie shares his journey from the world of professional sports to building a successful career as an entrepreneur and speaker. He offers valuable insights on the importance of personal branding, the challenges that come with career transitions, and how accountability and self-awareness play essential roles in personal and professional growth. Rennie and Nathan also discuss the value of transferable skills, continuous learning, and why helping others is a rewarding part of personal growth. Stay tuned to learn more about embracing challenges, building a strong personal brand, and setting yourself up for success in any career transition.
Rennie Curran, what's going on, man? Welcome to Be the Change Georgia. Good to see you.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks so much for having me on the show, man. It's great that we finally made it happen.
This is one of those weird ones too, where I feel like I'm like, it's like, I don't know if I'm nervous, like interviewing your speaking coach. I have to speak publicly with my speaking coach. So it's really cool to have you on, and I'll try to keep my nerves in check.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Excited for all the great things that you're doing, man, and always awesome to see your progress, your growth, and just really excited to continue on this journey with you, man.
And even watching your journey though too, because I remember having lunch with you and like, God bless, like 2016 maybe, I think, because it was Charlie Thaxton or whatever introduced us at one of those SOAR events, and then it was like,
yeah, he's a amazing leader, man, and I continue to stay in contact with him. So he's one of my mentors, become one. Just when we're talking about how to work with leaders, how to be more efficient and offer more value, create frameworks around things that will help them, be the change in their own industry, in their own company. He's been an amazing resource, man. So I'm glad he introduced us or reintroduced us.
Yeah, hopefully Charlie's listening. So get some public love here.
Yeah.
But diving in, like, a lot of people, especially in this state, they know you for, wrecking people on a football field. But talk a little bit about like your transition. And honestly, one of the things that I think is coolest about your story is that recognition too, that like, hey, at any day this could go away, especially the way contracts are structured in the NFL, all that. Like, this is probably like the most money I'm going to make, like this, but it's not this isn't the next 40 years of my career. So like you had that forethought to like, how do I start planning for what's next? And when it comes, and I remember when I first met you, you were still kind of like, I think you were like, you had one more tryout, but you were like, I can't keep putting this toll on my body unless the payout is worth it.
Right.
So you started planning this transition. So talk about that transition and writing the book, and then also getting into and building a really successful public speaking career.
Yeah, it was definitely a journey. I will not lie. And if I were to tell you that I'm in the place now where everything is just perfect and working and it's fine tuned, I'll be lying to you, because it's an ongoing journey. And that's one thing I've learned to embrace, is the fact that if there's anything in life that will be consistent, it's change. You're going to have it in some area of life, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your personal life. I'm getting married next year, so that's a big change. But in terms of my sports career and what people know me from, as far as being a University of Georgia linebacker, and like you said, hitting folks and making plays and getting my teammates fired up and the fans fired up, when it came to that change, really, it started long before the change actually happened. And a lot of when I go and speak to companies now, I talk about winning the game before the game, having a proactive mindset. And that's what it took for me to be able to successfully transition from athlete to entrepreneur. Like, I couldn't wait until 2017 when I tore my patella tendon to start thinking about my transition. Like, it started back in 2010. Even before that, And it really started with my parents. It started with my foundation because they never raised me to be someone who only saw myself as an athlete. And long before then, they really knew nothing about football. So I had the advantage of being around parents who focused more on other things that were of value that would last me um, for the rest of my life, that would lead to long-term success. So they valued faith, they valued education, they valued me speaking to people, just little things like that that have now sustained me. And same thing with my coaches. I had great coaches as well who took everything that I did on the football field and they turned it into a life lesson, starting with my little league coach. And then I had Mark Rick, who poured a lot of life lessons into me, a man of faith as well, great family man, a leader in the community. So I had all these different factors that led me to know and understand that I was much more than an athlete and to see myself beyond just being a player on the field. So when I was even in high school, I started speaking to elementary schools and I started doing book readings and I was a peer leader, like all those little seeds. When I got to University of Georgia, same thing. I was kind of that hometown kid. So I would go back to Snellville and I would go to like small towns towards the end of my UGA career. And I would start inspiring young kids who were doubted and who were labeled undersized like I was. And that was kind of the genesis of me beginning what I didn't even know was a career as a speaker and an entrepreneur. And I was a business major, so I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know how it was actually going to happen. And so while I was playing, though, I leveraged where I was at, meaning that I started to become aware of my environment and just all the resources, the people around me, the fans, how some of them were business leaders, right? So I started setting up meetings with fans, with people who I knew from UGA and who I knew from my community. I call it my low hanging fruit. So I started meeting with them, and this was while I was still playing because I got cut early on in my NFL career and everything. So unlike a lot of guys who get in there and career just takes off, when I got in my second year, we got a new coaching staff change. And so I found myself going from the guy who everybody was excited to be there to being tolerated and a different culture overnight. A lot of change happening. You see this happen with a lot of companies now, especially. But after going through that and getting cut for the first time and being home for 8 months, that's when I realized, man, I have to take initiative. I have to take life by the horns. I can't allow somebody to control my destiny. And that's when I started working on my personal brand. Something I highly suggest people do is to work on their personal brand before they have to. Start building your network before you have to build it. And so I started going to workshops. I joined the Buckhead Club and started networking, even though I didn't know really what networking was. Just started connecting with people and reconnecting with people like yourself. And that's what really started everything, man. Built my website from scratch and really just started small. I didn't start out speaking to companies and doing workshops and all that. Like I said, I started doing elementary schools and little league teams and churches and then Rotary clubs. And most of the time they wouldn't pay me hardly anything, but I was just glad to get the reps and glad to just be able to use my platform from my past and be able to pour into others and set myself up for the future. So that was really how everything started.
That's awesome. And you hit on something that I absolutely love too, which is that like that being adaptable, because I think, and I remember you saying this to me early on too, like you don't have to have the perfect talk. You almost have to just get out and like do it and evolve and see what kind of feedback you get. And I mean, in a weird way, there's like, listening to like podcasts and sometimes with like stand-up comedians and how they go test material and like
Oh yeah.
testing some of
Oh
the
yeah.
stuff at like the Rotary clubs where they're like, they're not paying me and it's a lunch and they're probably half listening.
Yeah.
But let me see what gets a reaction. But like from a personal development standpoint though, like that old adage of like, don't let perfection be the enemy of progress. Like you in a weird way are able to take your actual life story and what you've gone through and getting cut and injuries and planning ahead to actually help people. So I don't know, in a weird way, there's this really cool like story within a story there that you're able to kind of unpack for people and help them find their own success. And I mean, that was one of the reasons I was excited to have you on. I'm like, just come drop nuggets of inspiration. I'll just sit back.
Yeah. No, that's one of the coolest things about when you go through challenges. It's never fun in the moment. It's never fun when you're going through change and when you're having to be adaptable and you're having to navigate things that come out of nowhere, come out of your blind side. But the cool thing about it is when you learn to embrace it and um, when you learn as you're going through it and you're extracting the principles as you're going through that experience, man, you realize that it's actually giving you a framework to be able to help somebody else who has yet to face that. And that's what I realized. And it really started with that awareness and really doing the work. So once you have that awareness of this is something I'm going through, whether it's transition, whether it's a moment of building resilience, whether it's a moment of even the personal branding, there's so many things that I experienced, like how to rebrand myself, going from athlete to entrepreneur. That's a whole lesson and workshop in itself, because there's so many people right now who they've been in an industry for years and they've been doing the same thing for years, to where they all of a sudden find themselves laid off, or they find themselves having that urge and pull for entrepreneurship. And they're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know how can I take my years of experience and turn it into something that's actually going to add value to the marketplace. That's what I was able to go through. And I had my own process of what I did. And then having that awareness to go through that process myself, but then actually go backwards and refine that process to make it valuable to somebody else. That was a major part of my experience, and how I've been able to have success around what I do now. And that going back and refining also involves having mentors, looking at other models and other people who have similar frameworks, who are already doing it, knowing my peers, who are the voices in that space, in that industry that you're trying to now add value to. That was a major part of that transformation for me. So when I look at just taking my journey and applying it to other people, yes, it was about me having the awareness, but it was also about me going back and refining that experience, in terms of like the framework and the steps that it took for me to move forward from that place that I was to where I'm at now, and then being able to use that to help somebody else. So I've helped, entrepreneurs, executives, athletes, of course, anything from career transitioning, personal branding, their marketing strategy, helping them with their mindset, and even creating the right routine. So when you look at personal development, just from like a self leadership standpoint, I've been able to create frameworks around that, along with, of course, getting formal training. Like I got certified as a life and business coach. So that added a lot of different tools and different things that I use to help people now as well. But it's been an ongoing journey. And that's one thing I'm sure you know when it comes to change and leadership, is that it's never ending. You never there's never a point that you get to where you say, "Man, I'm here. I've arrived, and I'm good now. I can stop learning. I can stop going to conferences. I can stop meeting people." Like, no, it's just like I look at it like you're constantly learning new tools. And I think about like Batman, or like any of the superheroes that we love. They're always adding new tools, new gadgets, new ways to defeat the enemies or overcome whatever it is that they're going through. I look at myself the same way. I'm constantly looking at tools and resources, new connections, new people, all in the aim to continue adding value and continue to be the change.
You've also been, known to like help athletes transitioning from football into other careers, and but it's the same thing of a professional. There's that this is your identity and it's gone.
Yep.
And how do I reconcile with like this thing that I thought I was,
Yeah.
and maybe, but also I look at somebody like you and I'm like, the inspiration there is like, you were a football player, cool, but like your higher calling has come out of almost that adversity of like, okay, football's gone, what now? And having that plan, and now it's like, I mean, I'm listening to you, I'm like, dude, your calling is clearly you help people, like, and that is like to find that, and you're like, you look back on all the things and all the, I'm sure there were some like, I don't want to say depressing times, but kind of this like, what's next? And you're like, through that adversity, another door opens that you never even saw coming.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I love how you tee up that question, because there are so many people going through that right now. And I actually just started working with a company called CMP Career Management Professionals. And one of the things that they do executive coaching, they do a lot of talent assessments and things like that. But one of the biggest things that they're doing right now is outplacement services. And outplacement services is basically they get a contract with a company, and whenever somebody gets laid off, part of the severance package is career coaching, or that outplacement service where they're helping guide them to their next step and their next career opportunity. And so I'm working with tons of professionals now, and when I tell you, like, they're going through the same emotions, same feelings that I had as an athlete, Except, I mean, I would say mine was a little bit of an extreme just because of how much we're paid and the fact that everybody knows when you get cut. Um, you know, it's world news and things like that. So it's a little bit of an extreme being an athlete, but it's very, very much the same. And I didn't even know before I started working with them that outplacement services was actually career transitioning is what we call it in our world as athletes, but it's the same thing. But essentially, there were two things I realized. Like, there's the aspect of the transition, like you just mentioned, going through that whole emotional roller coaster of, you've been in that space and, now you have to figure out who you are. You have to figure out where am I going? You have to figure out um, what did I like about this institution that I was just in, and what do I want to do moving forward so that I don't just pick up another job or another gig, but it's actually something that's going to lead to a career. You have to think about family, right? So all these different emotional things. You have to think about finances. Am I going to apply for unemployment, or am I going to just, wait and manage my finances while I'm getting this severance package until I get the new job? Like, there's so many questions that you have to navigate, right? So there's that aspect of the transition. But another thing that I realized, man, was this major part of the transition that is kind of secondary that we many times miss out on, is just the bigger purpose of what we gain from those past experiences. So if you transition but you don't integrate, and I've used the word integration now. If you don't integrate, there's so much value that you miss out on. So for me as an athlete, a big part of my transition was also thinking about my past experience and just the knowledge that I gained that you a lot of times take for granted because you're no longer in that space. And I'm still doing this. So for me, that involved understanding my transferable skills. So from being a linebacker, playing in the SEC, playing in the NFL, being around high performers, being in these high performance cultures, what were the transferable skills or experiences that I can now take with me into this next phase of my life? That was a major part of being able to transition successfully. When I was sitting in that film room, I was actually doing a lot of probability and a lot of business intelligence. You see where I'm going with it?
Mm-hmm.
So every day I would sit with my coach and we're going over statistics and we're using probability to judge what play is going to be called next, what that running back or what that person is going to do next. We're looking at body language, we're looking at tendencies. It's the same thing in the business world. If you're on the sales side or on the marketing side, you're looking at tendencies in terms of like your customer. So now that's a lot of what I do when I'm thinking about working with a customer, when I'm thinking about working in a certain industry. What are their tendencies? What in terms of the calendar year? When is their hot season? When do they kick things off? When is their slow? When are their slow months? So those are some of the things that I've been able to extract from my past experience that now let me know that I'm more than qualified and capable of adding value in this next phase of my life. And if people don't take the time to do that, they walk away from those experiences when they've been working with a job for 20, 30 years and they feel like, man, what am I going to do now? And they're confused and they feel like they have nothing of value to offer the real world. You see this a lot, especially with those who are retiring. They feel like, I just don't know what I want. It's like, but you have all these skills. You were doing this for years and exactly what you're doing, even though you're not working with this company or in this industry anymore, you still have so many things that translate to other spaces and to other, that can help so many people. So that was a big thing that, was a part of being able to transition successfully.
It's incredible advice too, because yeah, I mean, you think about what was it, 2013? I think I got laid off twice. Like, and in the time you were talking about severance packages, I was like, shit, I like ripped up carpet and like tried to like redo the hardwoods. I painted the front door, like, and then you're like, oh, out of severance. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Like just kind of, but it's weird to see how people react, and obviously that was 30-year-old Nathan versus 41. Like the shock of it, I think is clear. If I sit back and look at what I did, I was like, clearly I was in shock and I just was like in denial of what my situation was. But it is so interesting. Like as time passed, there's that element of what did I get out of dispatching chicken trucks? Like, all the things that you can take out of those first careers. And you're like, okay, I know I don't want to do that anymore, but the work ethic, the 80 hours a week, the The
Yeah.
fact that, you were managing up and down and across and different ages and demographics and like, okay, so I clearly I got people skills. Like there's that, how do you kind of extract that out? But I think there's also something that you're hitting on that's my favorite quote from Jim Rohn, not Jim Rome, the sportscaster. Everybody always goes, "Oh, I don't like that guy." I'm like, no, the motivational speaker.
Right.
I'm talking to you. I already know you know who Jim Rohn is.
Oh yeah, of
Um,
course.
but like he always says, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And I think that's something that you have been like a walking example of, and you've inspired me to do more of. But ever since I heard that quote, it stuck with me. And I feel like at the heart of what you're doing is reminding people, like the branding, everything, like always be thinking about, like you said, the game before the game.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And I was just having a conversation with my fiance about this, and I would be remiss if I didn't share this with your listeners. But if you took the time on a weekly basis to just review the different interactions that you're having on your job in real time, and you were intentionally thinking about the skills that you're either building on your job through those experiences, or even the skills that you want to build while you're on the job, the transferable skills that will help you level up. It might be a leadership skill like emotional intelligence or conflict resolution. If you wrote those things down, you reviewed it in real time as you're going through your job, I guarantee you people's performance and their intentionality and the way they navigate what they do would increase exponentially if they were that aware and that intentional about what they do. And it puts you on a different trajectory when you're that aware and that intentional about how you move and what you're building as you're going through these experiences. You mentioned like unloading the chicken truck. I mean, part of that is project management. There's just so many different things that you're doing that you don't realize you're doing. For me, it was public speaking. I didn't realize, like, and I intuitively was intentional because that's who my parents raised me to be well spoken, to be respectful, to present yourself in a certain way with class. And so I made up my mind as a high school athlete that when somebody asks me a question, I'm not just going to give the generic answer. I'm definitely not going to sound like an idiot. I'm going to make sure that I give thought provoking answers. I'm going to articulate myself. But I didn't realize by being intentional, I was actually building the skill of public speaking as I was doing post game interviews and I was doing pre game speeches, and as I was getting invited to speak to little league teams. Like that just intention led me on a whole different path to where now I can, even if I don't know exactly what's happening, I can go and do commentating now. I can do, obviously I do public speaking full time, but I didn't even know that that was a thing. And so what I'm trying to communicate is that if you on your job right now, if you're intentional about whatever skill it is that you're trying to build or you want to build, and you see your job as an opportunity to strengthen that skill, you will, I mean, progress so much faster, and you'll walk away from that job not feeling like you lost or there was something that you didn't gain. You will have gotten the most out of that opportunity. And from what I've seen, you will get promoted a lot faster as well because somebody is always watching. And when you're more intentional, it's going to lead to those things that you don't even know. People will be talking about you and you won't even know that they're talking about you, and they're creating opportunities for you and things like that. So that's just something I'm super passionate about.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like it's funny you said that too. I intuitively was being intentional, but I say that all the time. I'm like, from the moment we started doing this, like I never mapped out every single step I was going to take,
Yeah.
but there was a progression where you're like, oh yeah, no, this led to this, to this. But I think there's also an element of, and you've talked about this throughout the episode of like having those goals, knowing where you want to go, like, where do you want to be at age 40? Well, at age 30 is not too early to start thinking about age 40, especially as you get older, those years start coming quicker.
Yeah.
People are like, oh my God, it's already Christmas. You're like, yeah, wait till you hit 40, man. It's just falling off the calendar. But I think if you just wait and there's no kind of, not even a goal setting, like you just wake up and you're just 40 and you're still at the same job that you hate, complaining about the same things that you've always been complaining about. At some point, I don't want to say it's like you become like a miserable person, but you're not working towards anything. You're just kind of like passing through life.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And, that's one of the things that when I think about sports and when I think about my experience as an athlete, that is one of the most beautiful things about being an athlete. Everything is black and white. You either the starter or you're not. And if you're not the starter, you know exactly why, because you're watching that film every single day and you're seeing your behaviors in real time and you're having constant accountability in real time. And it's usually not nice. Like it's very blunt. It's like you are not running fast enough. Like get your ass from here to here and do it faster, like now, today. So, and you have constant feedback. Like if you mess up on a technique, you are gonna get juked or you're gonna get your ass ran over. And there's no ifs and buts. You can't explain your way out of that. Some guys can, but for the like I know from my position, I can't. Like the film does not lie.
Yep. Film don't
I'm going
lie.
against a guy that's almost, that's 6'6", 300 pounds. So I have to do everything right. And if I want to get from high school to D1 college, there's a list of behaviors that I have to do. I cannot be the same player I was my freshman year to my senior year and think that I'm going to magically get a D1 scholarship. And then same thing to get from college to the pros, I have to change behavior. I have to humble myself. I have to constantly be learning, and everything becomes, the higher you go, everything becomes more and more meticulous. The difference, like I'm sure you saw the Olympics, the difference between winning gold and not placing at all is less than a second. That's how great the difference is. And when you're in that environment, it's like you have to grow. If you don't grow, if you're not hungry for it, if you're not hungry for accountability and feedback, mentorship and all that, you're just not going to survive. And unfortunately, the real world doesn't work like that. So that's where you see people who they work for a company 40 years and then they don't really grow, or they get to a point in life, they leave that company, they stop growing because they don't have those same structures of accountability. They're not around other high performers. Their friends maybe are either at their same level or lower, or if they even have friends at all. You just see a lot of things that lead to a certain outcome and whatnot. And so that's another thing that I took away from the sports world is, man, if you really want to progress and you want to increase performance, you want to be a better leader, you want to have a better life, you have to be intentional in terms of how you spend your time, the structure. You have to have accountability. You need a coach in a lot of cases, or else you're going to be doing the same things over and over and over, and you're not going to be hearing that accountability that you need to really progress. So yeah, I can go on and on about that, but
But
yeah,
it's true. Like you got to watch the game tape. I mean, and it's like, and I think the humility that you hit on, like, as great as we all think we are,
hmm
every once in a while we take a bad angle. Like
yeah,
like for me being a pitcher, I'm like, what'd you do wrong there, Nathan? Well, I hung a slider waist high and he hit it 400 fucking feet. Like that. Oops, my bad. Like, yeah, no, I know what I did there. But also, okay, what do we do in the bullpen? But like now it's like being speaker, like it's
hmm
painful sometimes, but like watching your game tape. But even if you're just in a corporate position, I think when you get passed over for that promotion,
right. Why did it
it
happen?
and sometimes it's not politics. You got outperformed. I remember hearing a complaint at an old job where it was like, the CEO plays favorites. I'm like, it's a consulting company. I'm like, yeah, he plays favorites to the people that build the most towers and their clients are the happiest. Yeah. It's just like playing sports. Yeah. The guy who gets the most, it's always there. He's always around the ball. He's always making plays is the coach's favorite. That's how that works. And it
Yeah,
translates to the real world. And so if you're not the favorite, sometimes it's okay to go like, I remember asking you about putting myself out there and what do I do as I start to take more and more, if you don't have haters, you're not doing anything significant. But the more you do of that, like sometimes you got to sit back and go like, is this deserved? Is this feedback? And you have to be like not proud enough to kind of go like, I'm not perfect. What can I learn from this situation?
100%, man. And that's where things like emotional intelligence, self-awareness, that's where a lot of it comes in, man. Just understanding that, like, you have a blind self. We all have a blind self. We all have an area of ourselves that we don't see. And so we need that accountability. We need to be in that position where sometimes we hear those things that we don't want to hear. And it's so important that you have people around you that are honest with you. At the same time, I think one of the greatest challenges that I truly believe that's one of the greatest challenges of a lot of leaders is the fact that they're not aware of their blind self. So they are doing certain things, they have certain behaviors, certain habits, mannerisms that allow them to have certain biases, certain judgments where they either In some cases they are playing favorites. Sometimes they do have a certain inkling, whatever it is. Maybe they went to Georgia and they like a certain, person that went to Georgia. Well, who knows? So there's two sides to it as well, man. But I definitely believe at the end of the day, that's one of the most important things that you have to have as a leader is that self-awareness, that ability to accept feedback, knowing the fact that no matter how good you are, no matter how well your performance is, there's that blind side of you that nobody that you can't see. And a saying that I say is that you can't see the label from inside the bottle. Can't see the label from inside the bottle. Yeah. So just being aware of that and using that as a way to constantly improve as well.
Damn, there's the mic dropper. I feel like I could keep this conversation going on for hours and hours. I didn't even get to talk about the speaking course, but we'll put that in the show notes because that to me was very powerful for me as a way to kind of wrap my head around doing this to the point where now I am getting paid speaking gigs. So, Rennie, man, I can't thank you enough. Like seriously, the wisdom is great and it all translates. And it's just cool to have gotten to know you beyond just like the dude who used to wreck people, like just because you did used to wreck people. But like to get to know you as a human, you as a person, and also somebody who's out there in the world that's really, 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 really trying to help everybody live their best lives because the world needs more people like that. And it's cool that you also figured out a way to do that and feed the family. So like, it's just, I'm excited for you. I'm excited to continue to follow your journey and thanks for inspiring the people behind you who are like, how do I do what I want to be that when I grow up? So I just want to show you some love and thank you for coming on and sharing some incredible wisdom, but also just personal reasons. Thanks for sharing wisdom with me because I can always use it. We're like, I'm sitting here listening. I'm like, oh, there's some game tape I need to review right now.
We all have it. I'm telling you, partly for myself as well too, because I got film that from speaking engagements I haven't watched that I need to go back and watch, and every little thing just makes you a little bit better, man. And I appreciate you having me on as well for everything that you're doing, man, creating a platform for people like myself to be able to share and everything, man, because it takes a lot of courage, man, to do these things, man, to do that podcast, to get out there and speak, to create that program without knowing what the feedback's going to be. I mean, all of it takes courage, man. And so same thing, man. Kudos to you as well, man. Proud of you, proud of your growth, man. Continue with the great work. You're being exactly what your title say. You're being the change, man. So super excited to see how you continue to grow, man, and the impact that you continue to make.
Appreciate it, man. We'll see you at a tailgate in Athens this year.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I will see you. And to your listeners, I appreciate you all listening as well. And if I can ever help or serve, whether it's in a speaking, coaching capacity, or just to support, my website is renniecurran.com. On social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, it's just at Rennie Curran. And so definitely look forward to hearing from anybody who is listening. If I can ever help you, connect you to anybody in my network, holla at me. So, yeah.
Awesome. We'll put all that in the show notes too. Rennie, thanks again, man. Really appreciate it. It's always a blast.
No problem. Have a good one.
Well, that wraps up another edition of Be the Change Georgia. We're grateful, as always, for the opportunity to serve you with this content and grow this incredible community of purpose-driven B Corp leaders. If you haven't already, we would be grateful for you to rate this show wherever you get your podcasts by simply tapping the number of stars you think it deserves and sharing it with a friend. This helps us get the word out and continue to use our collective influence as a force for good. This podcast wouldn't be possible without the help from our production team at Chat with Leaders Media. Learn how you can launch your own podcast to grow your business at chatwithleaders.com. Thanks again for listening, and now go be a leader worth following.